Let's dive right into this explainer, where we're going to unpack a really fascinating paradigm shift about human history. We're exploring this concept of the trainable giant and looking at exactly why animals like cats, dogs, and even crows have come to see us as safe partners. Have you ever just locked eyes with your pet and wondered, what kind of creature do they actually think I am? And I don't mean how they feel about you, but literally, what category of being do they put you in? Well, to answer that, we have to completely flip our perspective. See, we tend to think of ourselves as individuals with names, careers, smartphones, the whole shebang. But to really grasp the animal mind, we have to strip all of that away and travel back about 100,000 years. Because back then, we were definitely not the main characters of planet Earth. In fact, for millions of years, we weren't the hunters. We were very much the hunted. And to put that ancient biological weakness into perspective, just think about the predators hunting in the dark back then. Take the cave hyena. This thing had a bite force of 1,100 pounds per square inch. That is enough to effortlessly crush solid bone just to get at the marrow inside. And us? Humans have a measly bite force of around 162 pounds per square inch. We had flat teeth, useless nails, mediocre hearing, and walking upright just made us super visible from a distance. Honestly, by every biological metric, we absolutely should have gone extinct. I mean, we were sharing the landscape with literal nightmares. We're talking hyper-carnivores built to take down massive mammals. You had saber-toothed cats rocking 11-inch canines, waiting to ambush at 30 miles per hour. There were short-faced bears that stood 12 feet tall, weighed 2,000 pounds, and could sprint at 40 miles per hour. Oh, and cave lions that were a full 25% larger than any lion alive today. And meanwhile, early humans were just out there, slower, weaker, practically blind in the dark, and carrying around screaming babies that couldn't even walk for the first year of their lives. So, the huge question is, how did we survive all of that? Well, it wasn't by growing sharper teeth, that's for sure. It was all about unmatched adaptability. First, we figured out controlled fire, which basically created this 30-foot invisible force field that predators instinctively avoided. Second, we developed persistence hunting, basically just jogging after prey for hours until it collapsed from heat exhaustion. But the third, and honestly the most absolutely crucial weapon we had, was pattern recognition. Since we couldn't outmuscle these giant predators, we used our brains to just outsmart them. We started seeing patterns everywhere. We learned that saber-tooths like to hunt near water at dusk. We figured out that cave lions were terrified of fire, and that short-faced bears were solitary and highly territorial. We watched them, we memorized their schedules, and most importantly, we taught those patterns to the next generation. We literally took their predictable behaviors and turned them into our ultimate survival strategy, which allowed us to outlast and eventually eliminate those specialized killers altogether. Now, here is where we hit a massive evolutionary pivot. Fast forward to today, and obviously the tables have completely turned. We are the apex species. But modern animals? They survive and navigate around us using that exact same tool our ancestors used against the cave lions, pattern recognition. Because, and this is key, animals do not see humans the way we see ourselves. They don't get our jobs, our politics, or our complicated lives. Instead, they're just constantly studying us, trying to figure out what we are, based entirely on our daily habits. Modern animals are judging us strictly through our smell, the sounds we make, our movements, and our routines. They don't care who you are on paper. They are simply watching your habits to figure out, are you a threat? Are you just background noise? Or are you a reliable source of food? Every single time you grab your keys or pop open a can or even just walk toward a door, you're giving them a data point. The animals in your life are tracking your patterns with the exact same intensity that early humans tracked predators in the tall grass. So, how does this pattern recognition actually play out across different species? Because remember, they aren't looking at us and thinking, ah, yes, a human. They are fitting us into their own specific survival frameworks. The way a dog views you is wildly different from a cat, which is wildly different from a crow. Let's actually break down exactly what these creatures are seeing when they look at you.
Let's start with dogs, since they arguably understand us the best. To your dog, you walking through the front door after work isn't just a casual thing. It's this massive reunion. Now, your dog knows you aren't another dog. You definitely look and smell totally wrong for that. But they don't see you as entirely separate from their social world either. To them, you are a provider, a protector, and their emotional anchor. Basically, humans are just these strange upright pack members who happen to have a pretty terrible sense of smell, but make up for it with amazing, magical access to the snack cabinet.
Cats, on the other hand, are looking through a totally different lens. Unlike dogs, cats actually treat us a lot more like fellow felines, but with a bit of a twist. Get this, adult cats rarely ever meow at each other in the wild. Those meows, They developed that specialized language strictly to communicate with us. They use slow blanks and highly specific vocalizations to essentially manage our behavior. In fact, a lot of researchers believe cats basically view us as giant, incredibly clumsy cats that they can train to open food tins. So yeah, to your cat, you are literally just a trainable giant.
Now think about horses for a second. Horses are prey animals, which means their whole survival is based on instantly reading body language and energy. So to a horse, a human is a deeply confusing paradox. We have these forward-facing eyes and really direct, sharp movements, which in the animal kingdom screams predator. But horses are constantly reading our energy. If our behavior shows a calm, predictable pattern over time, they eventually ignore our predatory look. They learn to trust us, viewing us as these weird, non-threatening herd leaders who guide them and bring them food. Meanwhile, some birds take this pattern recognition to an almost frightening level. Crows, for example, are incredibly intelligent, and they are actively tracking your individual habits. To a crow, you aren't just some human, you are a specific, recognizable individual. They actively memorize human faces for years, specifically remembering if you were kind or cruel to them. If you're mean, a crow will hold a grudge and literally warn the rest of the flock about you. But if you're safe, you're categorized as a trusted ally. Your daily behavior is quite literally writing your reputation in the sky. And if we zoom out to look at wild city animals, our entire massive civilization is really just a series of predictable food-dropping patterns. To a pigeon or a squirrel, humans are pretty much just moving trees that occasionally drop breadcrumbs. We're just a weird part of the environment. And raccoons, they view us as the owners of magical food boxes, what we call trash cans. They aren't wondering about our hopes and dreams. They just know that if they follow our patterns closely enough, those magical boxes are going to be full of a midnight snack. This all leads to a really beautiful, kind of humbling realization. Whether it's your dog getting hyped because they hear your keys jingling, your cat reacting to the click of a can opener, or a crow remembering your face from a year ago, behavior is the absolute only language that matters in the animal kingdom. We are constantly telling animals exactly what kind of creature we are, not with our human words, but with our consistent, observable actions. So the next time you interact with any animal, the dog at your feet, the cat ignoring you on the counter, or even the birds hanging out outside your window, just remember that to them, you are simply a walking collection of predictable habits. They survived us for thousands of years by learning our patterns, and now they use those exact same skills to love and trust us. Which leaves us with one pretty profound question to think about. What story are your daily actions telling them? What patterns are you showing the animals in your life right now? Thanks for tuning into this explainer. And seriously, the next time a bird is watching you from a fence, ask yourself, what exactly are they taking notes on?